Hello and welcome to the 11th tutorial in this series, and today I'm going to add some foliage on this fence here, maybe some foliage in front of the camera to add details, and I'm going to add two trees to close the frame, so they are closer trees, so the frame will be closed with trees. And I'm going to add some ground here in the front so the house won't levitate like it is now. And I'm going to fix a little bit of small things, and then we're going to export this image to Photoshop. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is add some foliage here on this fence. So what I'm going to do in order to do that, I'm going to use a trick. I'm going to use built-in foliage in 3D Studio Max, which is in AEC extended. You have foliage here. So I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose a banyan tree, and I'm going to place it here in the scene. So this is way too big, of course, and the texture is not right. So I'm going to fix this. First thing, I'm going to assign or align the dimensions of this tree. In our case, it's going to be a bush, but same thing. So the height is 270 centimeters, which is 2.7 meters, which is way too big. So I'm going to make it smaller. Let's take it up here and to the fence. Let's go to the top viewport and let's place it on the fence here. So I'm going to rotate it a bit like so. Place it on the fence. Let's go to the camera view. Okay, so for one bush here, it's a bit small. Maybe let's make it 40 height, maybe 45. No, 40 is fine. Now let's go back to the top viewport and align it correctly to the fence like so. I'm going to squish it a little bit, so let's go to the select and uniform scale. I'm going to squish it on the z-axis, on the y-axis, I'm sorry, like so, a little bit, not too much, and let's place it on the fence here. Next I'm going to go to the front viewport and see if the height is good. So this is our grass. Maybe just take it down a little bit like so. Go back to the camera and we have a bush here. But the texture of this bush is not correct. It's, first of all, it's not in V-Ray, and second of all, the texture is horrible. So let's, if I deselect it, you can see it becomes something strange, and that's because the level of details becomes smaller when I deselect it. So first of all, I'm going to take this bush and convert it to editable mesh. Now this is no longer a built-in 3D Studio Max bush, it's a mesh or a polygon. Let's convert it to right-click, convert to editable poly, and now it's just an editable poly foliage. Let's call it bush. And now let's align the texture of this bush. So in order to do this, I'm going to go to the material editor. I'm going to go to an empty slot, and I'm going to take materials, pick from object, and I'm going to pick from this object. So this is the material of our bush. As you can see, it's not very good. It's just green leaves and brown stances. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my custom textures. So I'm going for the trunk. First of all, let's go inside trunk. Let's change it from standard to, now I have a bug inside 3D Studio Max, so when I go to material map browser, I don't see anything here. So I need to click on this and show incompatible, and then click on show incompatible again. So now I can see my materials and maps and controllers and everything else. In your 3D Studio Max, you shouldn't have this problem. For some reason it happened to me, but you should have the maps, material, and controllers already visible when you go into here into this material map browser. So I'm going to do this show incompatible and show incompatible again. I'm going to choose materials, V-Ray material, Alright, so now we have a V-Ray material. In the diffuse slot in the box here, I'm going to click Maps, Standard Bitmap. And I'm going to choose a wooden material, which is a part of a plugin called the Ivy Generator, which I'm not going to go into in this tutorial, but in future tutorials maybe I'll show you something that this plugin does, because it's a very, very good plugin. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to go into the library where my plugin is, and I'm going to Ivy Generate. I'm going to take the textures which come with the plugin. So I'm going to include these textures in the file in the comment section. So you don't need to download the Ivy Generator plugin, just use the textures in the comments. Now let's use this wood texture for our bush here. So let's go in. As you can see, the wood here, it's brown. Now, first of all, I'm going to go to material, pick material from object again, and click on the bush. And now I'm going to take this material to the trunk slot here, instance, so that every change I will make in this material will affect the bush itself. So let's just click on Show Shaded Material in Viewport. Now you can see the material on the trunks. I need to apply this material to everything except the leaves. So let's go up here and just instance this material to everything that is brown. So now everything is the wooden material except for the leaves. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on this material here. So first of all, let's make it just a little bit darker, because the wood is very bright. So I'm going to go to Output and change the RGB level to 0.75. As you can see, it's a bit darker here. You can't see it in the viewport, but when you render, you will see the effects. So the wood material is a bit darker now. Second of all, I'm going to go to Maps and copy this to Bump. So we have a little bit of bump to our wood, as you can see. And that's it for now for the wood material. The second thing I want to do is change the leaves. So we have the leaves here. I'm going to go to Leaves, change the standard to V-Ray material. So now the leaves became gray. That's because I don't have a texture here yet. Let's change this box to a circle. So I'm going to sample type circle. It's easier to see the material on a circle. Now I'm going to add a diffuse bump and this leaf here. Let's add this. So now you can see the leaves are this leaf, but we have a white border here, which we want to erase. We want only the leaves to be shown. So we're going to go back up to Leaves, and let's go to Maps and add an opacity map. What this map does is everything that is black will disappear from the material, everything that is white will be visible, and the grays in between black and white are levels of visibility. So if it's medium gray, you will see half transparent. Okay, so what we need to do is go to opacity, click on none, bitmap, and add this bitmap here. Now the blacks will disappear and the whites will be totally visible. As you can see, our material here, you can see only the leaf. Now if I go to leaves and hit this show shaded material in viewport, you can see the effects already. The white disappears even without rendering. Next thing I want to do is I want to go to this last in the list of the materials of this bush, and I want to, you know what, no, I'm just going to copy the leaves over here. So copy, that's fine. We have our bush here, and now I'm going to go to the top viewport and just copy this bush or instance it like 5 times, so it will be on the fence here. Now let's go to the camera. As you can see, we can't see the bushes on this side, so we don't need them here. So I'm going to control select all these bushes and just take them to this side here. Camera. Let's continue, shift, drag here. So now we have the last bush is not visible, so I'm going to delete it because it's just taking up space. Now if we go to camera, you can see all this wall is covered with bushes. Let's go to the top viewport again. Just add another one in the end here, because you can see, if I go to the camera, that the bush is a little bit visible on this side. So this is fine, but all the bushes look exactly the same. So I want to rotate them a little bit. Let's go to the top viewport. Just select a couple of bushes randomly and rotate them. Now, if I rotate them now, everything will rotate like so. I want to rotate local, which means every one of these bushes will locally rotate. So I'm going to rotate just randomly like this, and this one just a little bit like this, maybe this one like so, and this one like so. Just randomly rotate them so they won't look exactly the same. Now I want to try to render this region here and see if our effect is good. So I'm going to go to render setup, and I'm going to use V-Ray RT, which is real time. We used this in the previous tutorial. This will render in very noisy, but you can see the effects, you can see the lighting and everything just fine. This rendering is only for test renders, it's not for final render. So I'm going to lower the resolution also, and let's render this scene here. And let's see what's going on with the bushes. So this is not bad. They're a little bit grayish, so I'm going to add color to them just a little bit. Let's try rendering only this region here. So this render is much faster. As you can see, it's a little bit of a grayish color. I want to make it not as green as the grass, but greener than this. So let's try tweaking the material here. So I'm going to go to the material, to the leaves material, and I'm going to add a color correction to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, cut, click on none, and select from map standard color correction. What this does is adds a color correction to it. Now in the none, I need to paste what I cut, the texture itself, and now I have some options. So if I see in the leaves, you can see there's color correction here. The material itself is in this slot in color correction. Now I have some sliders here in color corrections that I can work with in order to increase saturation, which we want to do now, which increases color. We can play with brightness, with contrast and other stuff. What I use this color correction for usually is the saturation. So if something is very, very green or colorful and I want to tone it down, I can use the saturation slider in the negative value, like so. As you can see, the color changes. So in -100, it's pure black and white. But what we need to do is add color. So I'm going to increase it to something like 50. So as you can see, this is much more colorful than it was before. Now let's go back to this leaf and see the effect didn't take here because we didn't do instance. So what I'm going to do is take this leaf and instance it here. If I just make a copy, the changes I make here won't affect this one, but I want them to, so I'm going to create an instance here. Now let's try rendering this region again. Okay, much better. This is much greener and it's looking much better now. So this is fine. Let's stop this. Now I want to add another bush here in the front. And this will make the rendering feel like it's full of vegetation in all sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these and shift drag them here near the camera. So now I'm going to create an instance. So every change I make here will affect all the others. I'm going to rotate it so it's facing the camera like so, and place it somewhere here near the camera. Now if I go to the camera viewport, you can see the bush here. Alright, so I'm going to place it on the side here, and I'm going to shift drag another one to the side here. This closes the frame nicely, so we have like two bushes here and bushes on the side, so it gives a feeling of a lot of vegetation in the scene. Maybe I'm going to take another one here, just a little bit visible on this side. Now this is great. This is it for the vegetation. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to fix this fence here. It just closes the scene. I want the grass to continue till the wall here, and add some floor on this side so the house won't levitate like it does now. So I'm going to go to the top viewport, and I'm going to delete this side of the wall. I'm going to go to line, choose this segment. I'm going to choose this segment and hit delete. So now we deleted this segment, so the wall is just straight. Now I want to go to the grass, and I want to add vertices to it. So I want to cut it here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to vertex, slice plane, rotate the slice plane 90 degrees, and take it here like so, and slice. Now this created a line here. Why did we do that? I want to use this edge here and shift drag it straight, so I'm creating more grass until this wall here. I'm going to take this vertex here and just go along with the wall. So now if we go to camera, you can see the grass continues till the end, but I want to make it just a little bit in a slope, so like this, like so. So now we have a grass plane that goes all the way to our end, our fence here. I'm going to add, let's go to top, some foliage here at the end, maybe one or two bushes, instance. Let's see, move it here so it's visible, and down so it's goes with the grass itself. Let's place it one here and another one here, two copies, and another one here. So we have three bushes here. Let's go to the top viewport, align them correctly, and this one here, front viewport to see if the height is correct. So the height is fine. Rotate them just a little bit for variation, like this, one like this, and that's it. So now we have foliage on this side also, and this looks much better. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add ground here on this side of the house. So I'm going to go to the top viewport. Let's hide this plan. Right click, hide selection, and I'm going to add floor like so. I'm going to draw it with line. So let's draw this floor. One. Wait a second before I draw. Let's go to modify. No, let's go to line and rendering, and it stands on enable and render and enable and viewport, and we stand on rectangle. This was because we drew the fence. So now we don't need this, we need only the lines. So I'm going to deselect these two, and now I'm going to draw lines. Okay, so it goes till somewhere here. So I'm going to shift. When the shift is pressed, the line goes 90 degrees this way or 90 degrees this way. So the line is straight, which is great for us. So I'm going to hit shift and finalize this line here, and click here. So F4 to see the details. Now you can see the stairs are finished here, but we can't see all this from the from our camera. So what I'm going to do is shift until here and here. This one just go with the building itself. Let's hit F3 to see. Okay. It doesn't matter if we make mistakes for now because we're going to fix them now. So let's go to the perspective viewport and see what we drew here. We have a line. Now we have it goes in the heights every which direction, so I need to fix this so it's gonna be a flat surface. So let's go to isolate selection. I'm going to be left with only the line. Let's go to front viewport. I'm going to select the vertices and just drag them down to one height. So this point here, this point up here, only on the y-axis. This point here, this point over here. So now it's almost flat. We have something that is not flat here for some reason. I'm going to select these 3 points and take them down here. Alright, so now it's perfectly flat. Let's go to perspective viewport. Unhide with this unisolate tool. And now let's make it a editable poly. So right click, convert to editable poly. Now this plane is editable poly. And let's take it down on the z-axis so it is aligned with the stairs. Now as you can see, I took it down on the z-axis, but it's not aligned with the stairs. And the reason for this is if I go to the front viewport and I isolate selection again, you see that my gizmo, this y-axis tool, is not aligned with my line here. That's because it was all over the place on heights. So it was in the center of the heights that were before when we built this line. So in order to align this gizmo to this line here, I'm going to go to hierarchy, effect pivot only. Pivot is gizmo, it's the same thing. And center to object. Now it is centered to this line here. Deselect this and let's go back to perspective viewport and unisolate everything. F3 to see everything in shaded and edges. And now if I take this Z gizmo down to the level of the stairs, it is aligned correctly. So as you can see, our stairs here are a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these points, these vertices, on my plane and just take them up to the stairs here. So we have a little bit of a slope here. It goes down here and on this side. So if we go back to our camera, you can just barely see the ground here. So everything we just did is for this little detail on this side. And details are very, very important in 3D renderings. So the last thing I'm going to do with this plane is I'm going to give it a texture. So let's download a texture from CG Textures. We talked about the site 100 times before in previous tutorials, so I'm going to recap. This site holds hundreds, if not thousands, of great textures to download. It's free. You can make become a member for a little bit of money, but if you don't require very, very high resolution textures, you don't need that. So I'm going to use bricks for our ground there. Maybe not bricks, maybe ground. No, this was in, let's see. Paper. Floors, I think. Yes, okay. So we have the mixed size tiles, or maybe herringbone, which is something like this, or regular. Let's go with regular. This texture looks great. So I'm going to select the texture I want. Maybe this one here. And I'm going to download this one here. So let's just log in to download. Not going to give you my password. Just do just log into the site. It's free, so there's no problem. I'm going to download the medium resolution texture, like so. So now we have this texture here. Okay, and let's add this to the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new material. Let's change this from standard to V-Ray material. I'm going to assign the texture I just downloaded. So click the box here, bitmap, and let's go to what we just downloaded, this one. Okay, so maybe you downloaded to another directory. Just find the texture you just downloaded and assign it to this material here. Double click to see it in high resolution. Now what I'm going to add is just a little bit of, not options, sorry, go to maps, just add a little bit of bumpiness to this. So I'm going to copy this material here, and now as you can see, just a little bit of bumpiness, which is great. I'm not going to add a reflection and things to this material because you barely see it in the rendering. So I'm just going to drag it here to our, let's call it front walk. And I'm going to hit show shaded material in viewport so we can see the material in the viewport. Now it's not visible now because we haven't given this front sidewalk UVW map to align the texture correctly. So I'm going to go to modifier list, add a UVW map to it, and now it's visible. So let's go to the top viewport. Of course it's way too big, so I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to bitmap fit it, which means that it will fit the texture with the bitmap width and height. So bitmap fit, just select our texture we downloaded, and now the bitmap is fit correctly, but we need to play with the size. So I'm going to hit the UVW map until it becomes blue, and select an uniform scale and just scale it on the Y and X axis, like so, until it becomes something that looks correctly. Maybe this size is fine. Now as you can see, the tiling is not very good. You can see the tiling, the separation lines. In order to fix this, there are a couple of ways, but first of all, let's see in the camera viewport if you can actually see this. And we can't actually see the tiling problem in our viewport, so I'm not gonna fix it. Just gonna leave it as is because of the camera angle. So this is fine. Now our GI, or global illumination, will hit the floor and hit back to the house and create a more realistic lighting. And also there is a little detail here, so that's not bad. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add some trees here in the foreground to close my perspective and give it a feeling of like a garden. So I'm going to use, in the previous tutorial I showed you where to download trees, free models of trees. I'm going to use another model from these model collection I downloaded in the previous tutorial. And I'm going to also add this model to the comment section, so you don't need to search for it. It's there. I'm going to use, let's go to Max, Import, Merge. I'm going to use EU43, and in models I'm going to use the fourth model of the trees we downloaded. So this model will be in the comment section below. Just use EU43-4. Let's import it to the scene. It says that the material by this name already exists in the scene, so I'm going to rename it to same but with 2 in the end. Rename material. Now let's go to the top viewport, and the tree is here, so I'm going to drag it to our garden. I'm going to deselect this snap toggle tool so it's easier to drag it here, and now I'm going to place it in my scene. Let's go to the front viewport, see if the height is fine. So like this, it's way too big. Let's make it smaller, just a little bit, like so. and place it in the scene. Now if I go to the camera viewport, you can see on the side here it's not visible, so I need to drag it just a little bit to the camera, like so. Alright, so now we have a tree in the foreground. I'm going to copy this tree in the top viewport and place it somewhere here. Instance. Let's rotate it so it won't be exactly the same as this one. Go to the camera viewport. It's in front of our camera, which is not good. We need to move it to the side. So move it like so. Just a hint of a tree on the side here. And this closes our scene nicely. Let's save this for now. And let's try rendering real time and see how this looks for now. Now we're rendering only this square, so I'm going to cancel for a second and unselect region render because I want to render the whole image. Now we're rendering in V-Ray RT, which is real time. This is only for work purposes. We're not going to use this renderer for our final image. It's only to see that everything is in place and the shadows are fine, because it's very dotty. It's very noisy. This looks great. You have a bush here. Maybe I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. You can select this option in order for the rendering engine to follow your cursor. So if the cursor is here, it will render this region first. So we have a bush here on the side. Okay, this looks great. I just want to make the bushes on the front look bigger. So I'm going to cancel for a second. Let's make them bigger. Top viewport. Bigger bushes, like so. Front viewport. Let's see. Take them down a little bit and go to the camera. It's way too big, but I'm going to take them down, so like so. Let's go to the perspective viewport and just move them down. Where's the gizmo? Here it is. Move them down on the z-axis, like so. Okay, so now it's in the correct height. Let's just move it to the side a little bit. Maybe move it just a little bit front, like this. Alright, so now we have just a hint of the bushes, and let's delete this and copy this one to the other side also. Well, oops, cancel. This one to this side here. Instance it and just move it back here. Just a hint of a bush. This is great. Let's save this for now. Okay, so the next thing I want you to see is, if I real-time render this for a second, is you can see the V-Ray plane on the background here. So you can see the background behind the trees, where the trunks are. You can see this white plane here. You can't see it here because of the fence, but on this side you can see a white plane. This plane is the V-Ray plane, which is beneath the house. The V-Ray plane is infinite, so it goes infinitely to the distance. I don't want to see this gray plane here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some trees in the background. Behind these trees, which are shorter. So the trees will take all the background view. So let's hit cancel. Go to the top viewport. I'm going to take these three trees, shift drag them back here. Very important, instance them, not copy. So now every change I make to these trees will be changed also, and it's lighter on the system, so it doesn't use as much RAM. Okay, so now the trees are back here. Let's go to the camera. I'm going to show whole mesh. Now this option is new to V-Ray 3.2, I think. So if you don't have this option, just use a preview from file, and you can see the trees. It's much worse like this, but you can still control it. So I'm going to use the show whole mesh, which shows the whole mesh of the V-Ray proxy. I'm going to take the trees down like so, so you can see the trees, the branches in the back. So as you can see, it fills the whole frame. Let's control Z back and just move these trees to the left like this, and a little bit to the top Let's go to the top viewport, just move them back a little bit, and let's put them here. So now the trees are supposed to take the whole frame here. So I'm going to hit one of the V-Ray meshes, or the V-Ray proxies. I'm going to go back to bounding box, so the polygon count will go down, because show shaded in the viewport, we're already in 11 million polygons, which is very difficult for slower computers. So I'm going to go to bounding box, which shows the trees as boxes, but when you render, it renders correctly. So now we're down to 4 million polygons, which is acceptable. 5 million is the limit, it's fine. Now let's try rendering it again and see if this background is hidden with trees. You can still see this white plane, but it's nicely hidden here on this side. So I'm going to move one of the trees to the left so it hides everything. Let's just go back to show whole mesh, and I'm going to go to this tree here. It's on this side. I'm going to move it back and down, maybe just a little bit backwards, like so. So now I think it's aligned correctly. Essentially what we're doing here is hiding the plane using trees at the background. So I'm placing trees behind the trees and taking them lower so that they will conceal the white V-Ray plane. Alright, so now everything in the background is green, which is perfect. On this side I'm going to do same thing. Creates a feeling of a whole like forest like at the back here. So I'm going to take these 3 trees back here, like so, instance them, of course, camera, and just take them down like so and move them here. It will fill the background, essentially. The background will look much fuller. This is fine. Let's go back to bounding box so it won't take too much polygons. Also, if this is too much for your system, you can use the method which we used, V-Ray proxy method, in the previous tutorial to create proxies of these trees for these trees here and for these bushes here. And then the polygon count will go way down. So in my instance 5 million is fine, so I'm not going to use V-Ray proxy for these. Alright, let's try last time rendering and see if these background trees are aligned correctly. Okay, so the background is full of trees now, and this one also, which is great. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some furniture here and some furniture up here, so this looks a little bit more lived in the house. Of course you can download the furniture from hundreds if not thousands of sites on the internet. The furniture I'm going to show you now again are free. We're using only free assets for these tutorials, but if you want better results or better trees and more realistic trees and objects and furniture and things like that, usually they cost money. So in order to create good visualization, you usually need to buy packs of trees and of furniture and things like that. This is the expenses of the business, you know. Okay, so but for this example, the trees I showed you that we download from a free site are not bad at all. This will look realistic. Okay, so the furniture as I downloaded are from this site here. This site is called ProWiz.info, and we have on the top here IKEA Sondero Outdoor Furniture series, which is free to download. So I already downloaded it. But if you want to download this series, just go down here, free download IKEA stereo series. Okay, and then you will have this file here. I'm going to open this file. I'm also going to include the furniture that I used in the comment section below. So I'm going to extract from this zip file only the V-Ray furniture and the materials and maps which are used in the V-Ray models. So now I extracted it from the file. I'm going to use one of the furniture to put in our scene. So let's go back to our scene. In order to import furniture to the scene, I'm going to go to Max, Import, Merge, because I want to merge a Max file with this scene. Let's go to wherever we downloaded the files. Let's go to V-Ray and choose one of these furniture. So I'm going to use a table. You can see the furniture list in the PDF file that is that comes with this collection of furniture. So I'm going to go to where I download this. Okay, this is the file. You can see the models in the PDF file. You can choose the models from here. So I'm going to use set 1 for now. Let's see where the set 1 is. Okay, I don't see the set 1 here, but let's choose the table and 4 armchairs. Let's import them into the scene. Go to the top viewport. Here they are. Perspective. As you can see, we have this set here. I'm going to move it into place. Place it here. I'm going to go to the front viewport and align the height so they stand on the deck here. As you can see, this is the deck. I'm going to move them down to the deck. Let's go to camera, F3, F4 in order to see this. Okay, they're aligned correctly. Let's shift drag them to this side so we have more furniture on this side. And okay. Let's see what we have here. Just move them a little bit backwards. Maybe I'm going to rotate them a little bit so they won't be exactly like these. Next, I'm going to import, merge more furniture. So table 4 chairs, table and 6 chairs. Let's import this. It says that the material is already in the scene. It's the same material as these, so use scene material. In order to use the same material these already use. Let's go to the top viewport. And as you can see, it's a bit longer. You know what? I'm going to change this one for this one because I don't want it to be the same on both sides of the house. So let's go to the front viewport. Take them up to the deck again, so you touch the deck like so, and I'm going to rotate them like this, place them backwards in the entrance to the house. I'm going to delete this. Let's go to the camera and see what we have here. Okay, so we have different furniture for different sides of the house. Next thing I want to do is add more furniture up here. So I'm going to merge armchair maybe. Let's try this one. Use scene material because it's the same material, same wood material for everything. So use scene material. Go to the top viewport and move them back here. It's like a chair. So I'm going to place a couple of chairs on my balcony. Front viewport, take it up to the balcony. F3 in order to see in the scan line, wireframe. And just move it down to the balcony floor like so. Let's rotate it so it looks on the garden. Top viewport, just place it somewhere here and maybe another one here. Instance, rotate. Let's see what we have here. You have 2 chairs on this side, and let's copy these chairs, shift. I hold control in order to select 2 objects and shift drag them to the other side of the balcony. like so. Alright, so now we have the furniture, minimal furniture for our scene. Let's see the material of this furniture. It's the same material, it's the wooden material. Pick from object, pick from here. As you can see, we have a problem here. We don't see the wood like you see it here. That's because our maps of the material, of the wood, is not placed in a correct folder. What we need to do is we need to take, let's go back here, we need to take the maps folder, which contains the maps or the textures of the wood for these furniture, and just take this map folder and copy it to the folder where this max file is. So the folder of your project, you need to copy this maps folder there. So my project is here, I'm going to copy it here. So now it's auto-saving, 1 second. So now this material is supposed to be fine. In order to see it here in the materials tabs, in the wood material, as you can see, it's white here. It's taking just a bit too much time. That's because we have 5 million vertices in the scene, so the autosave is a bit slow. Let's give it a couple of seconds and it will finish. Usually you can hit escape to cancel the autosave, but if it started autosaving like 5 seconds after you noticed it, if you hit escape it doesn't do anything. So just give it time to finish. Okay, finished autosaving. Now as you can see, the wood material is not shown here, but if you go inside the wood dark, you can see the material. That's because we copied the materials into the right folder, but it didn't update the material on this slot. But when you render, it's going to be fine. Let's just go a little bit here and see the material. So I'm going to go to the material, to the wood material, and hit show shaded in viewport. So now it's black for some reason. All of these side effects are because we copied the material library after we placed the materials, after we placed the objects in the scene. So if I go to the camera and I'm going to save, and after I save, I'm going to open the exact same file I just saved, our scene file. When it opens, it will load the textures correctly into the scene. So now it's still black for some reason, but let's see our materials here. As you can see the wood here. So let's go to V-Ray Dirt. Oh, that's the reason. Okay. This material uses a lot of different materials inside of it. It's a very complicated material. It has glossiness and reflections and bump, and the diffuse itself is V-Ray Dirt material, which we went through in previous tutorials. The V-Ray Dirt creates like dirty surfaces on the connections between things, so in corners and things like that. So in order to see the material here in the viewport, you need to go to unoccluded color, and this is the material itself, the wooden material. Now if I hit show shaded material in viewport, it will show only the wooden material, which is this one. As you can see the wood now. So I'm not going to go into what exactly material they did for this furniture, but it's very complicated. So let's go to the camera viewport and try rendering it in V-Ray real time again. See if the furniture are aligned correctly and the material is good. Alright, so now our scene begins to look more full and lived in. So people are living inside, which is great. Alright, this is it for this one. The last thing I want to do in this tutorial is I want to add, let's go to render setup, and let's go back from RT to V-Ray Advanced or V-Ray Demo, or whichever V-Ray you own. Now this is the production renderer, which means the RT is used for work purposes in order to see the lighting and everything else, and the advanced or the V-Ray is used for the production rendering, for the final rendering image. Okay, so I'm going back here and I'm going to go to render elements. What this does is creates elements or pictures of different elements in the scene. I'm going to use this in Photoshop to add realism to the scene. So for now what I'm going to do is render elements, add, and I'm going to add 4 elements. The first one is global illumination. What this does is adds a picture only of the global illumination in the scene. Next thing, I'm going to add a picture only of the reflection in the scene. So only the reflections will be shown in this image. I'm going to add a specular. So this picture will show only the specular or a glossiness of things in the scene. And the last one, I'm going to use lighting. This will show in this picture only the lighting in the scene. After I render this, you will see what I mean about these render elements. Don't worry about it if you didn't understand. In the next tutorial, when we're going to go to Photoshop, I'm going to explain this fully. So for now, I'm just adding add, global illumination, reflection, specular, and lighting. Alright, this is it for this tutorial, and the next tutorial will be the last one. And in that tutorial, we're going to go to Photoshop and create a very realistic looking image from all the images we exported, from the image we export of the scene and from these images here. So thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next and last tutorial for this series.